I'd like to talk about the first time I met him, which was at Cannes. I was the president of a jury, the Cine Fondation, which is for student films, right? I forget the year, but it was the first time I met him. I think it was maybe 12 or 13 years ago. And I had seen by that time, over a period of a couple of years, 4 or 5 of his pictures, starting, the trilogy, the olive trees, all of that. But I hadn't seen Close Up yet. Now, at an early age in my life, I was about 5 or 6, when I was exposed to Italian neorealist films, 1947, 48, whatever. And for many reasons, I was shocked by these films, by the purity and by the truth of the Italian cinema that I saw. The Open City Paisa, Shoeshine, Bicycle Thieves. And I know Abbas loved these films too, I believe. Now, the interesting thing is after I saw 4 or 5 of his films together over a period of a few months, I found that I experienced that same impact 65 years later. That it was something that just completely, just changed my way of looking at the world. And, now I'm the president of this jury. He's on the jury. There was some other nice people on the jury. And, because of the impact that these films had on me, I was a little cautious to meet him. I mean, we finally get together and say hello, and the whole group together, and I see this guy. He's cool. He's got those glasses on, Didn't say anything. I'm saying, all right. Elegant, eloquent, very quiet, very careful with his words. Always thoughtful and always studying everything. But it wasn't cold. It was some other thing going on. What the heck is this? So we spent the first day. I forget how many days we had of looking at these films. We spent the first day looking. And quite honestly, I was in the middle of my own morass of making pictures, and there's lots of pressure and that sort of thing. We're in the carousel of Cannes, all that madness, New York, LA. And at the end of the first day, they all suggested that we get together and maybe I give some guidelines for the jury as to how to proceed, as to what we think would be a good film or not, et cetera, et cetera. And I did that. But I really had no idea. I just really had no idea what a criteria of judging. In the first place, judge a film is a problem. Now, judging student films, 20 a day, I didn't really know, and I babbled on for a little while, and I said, why don't we please give me till the morning? Let me see another group of these films till lunchtime tomorrow. Then maybe I'll get my head together in terms of just the jet lag, everything. And he was sitting there, and then he said, "May I say something?" I said, "Of course." He said, "Can I suggest that today many short films are made merely as examples of a story that the filmmaker wants to get to make into a feature in the commercial world?" He said, what if we just experience these films as films in and of themselves, not made with any agenda? And I said, well, that's the man. That's the guy. I said, you got it. That's the way to go. You're right. You're right. I said, for me, what he was talking about really is the film itself, the experience itself, the film in and of itself, contingent on nothing but itself, has to stand on its own. And this was actually the kind of thinking and the way of seeing the world that I needed, and not only in cinema, but in my life, really. And what put us in the room in the first place was our love of cinema. We weren't there to have, to judge something for 3 days. It's not easy. It's not a pleasant task. But it was an extraordinarily difficult time. But our love of cinema is what put us in the room in the first place. Our love of film and our love of movies. And what does it mean to love movies, to love cinema? There are camera movements, there's editing, there's non-editing, angles, style, spectacle. And I guess to a certain extent that's all true. You take that into consideration. But all these things add to a certain love of cinema, right? But technique and technical sophistication affects us only to the extent that they help work to create simple, direct contact between the filmmaker and the audience. And when I see Kiarostami's films, when I see The Olive Trees, when I see ABC Africa, Where is the Home of My Friend, or The Wind Will Carry Us, or any of these pictures, the last section of 5, the fifth episode, I think. I found that purity again. I found that I wanted to spend the time with the people in these films. It was like a cleansing to spend time with the spirit of those films, those worlds, the spirit of the artistry, which makes me see people in the world in a new, refreshing, and hopeful way.